what's up, everyone? My name is Untamed. Welcome to my YouTube channel, or welcome back to my YouTube channel. We are once again talking about the Netflix adaptation of One Piece, episode 3. Another great episode. I really do enjoy this episode. I think it started off really well. It had some really great points to it. There was a couple of slower moments, I will admit that. Anyway, let's talk about it. We're going to go to Collider today with a recap of the episode, and I will add commentary where I need. One Piece episode 3 recap, The Boy Who Cried Pirate. This is where we get to see Usop. Oh my god, and Arlong. So, it's a doozy of an episode. Basically, it's another telling of The Boy Who Cried Wolf, so you can kind of guesstimate what kind of happens as far as Usop is concerned, because he is the boy who cried wolf in this story. So we kind of get a little bit of the foreshadowing, but not too much in my opinion. Welcome to Syrup Village, a charming little port town that featured a shipyard, a bustling marketplace, and a boy who likes to cause trouble. One Piece episode 3, Tale No Tales, opens on that very boy, a young Usop, tearing through town screaming about how pirates are coming. While the townsfolk believe him the first couple of times, they quickly realize there's no actual threat and stop taking him seriously. Not that stops him from keeping up the performance. 7 years later, an older Usop still insists that the pirates are coming eventually, and when that day comes, he'll be ready to protect the village. Guess they never got the boy who cried wolf out in Syrup Village. Yeah. But so that's the opening part. Scene is we see a young boy running through the city. The pirates are coming, and we're not really given much more context other than just the poor boy running through the town calling out that the pirates are coming. And then we switch over back to our Straw Hat gang. And out at sea, Nami studies the map while Luffy works on his very crooked Jolly Roger flag, and Zoro apparently fails to notice that the ship doesn't have a bathroom until the cabin starts flooding. Yeah, and it starts flooding in the exact spot where previous episode Nami was making her secret phone call with the cute little snail, and it's quite hilarious to think about. Part of me wonders if this is the part where Zoro knows that Nami is not who she says she is, but I don't know. Basically, Zoro and Nami start pointing fingers until Luffy suggests a far more simple solution. Find a new ship worthy of the Straw Hat crew. And basically they're like, we are not a crew. Please stop saying that. He asks where the closest place is to find a ship, and Nami tells him about the Gecko Islands and home of Syrup Village, which is a shipbuilding yard. So next we are brought back to the Marines, and we are seeing Kobe fix one of the knots that Helmeppo is tying, and they have a little bit of a tiff, and then Vice Admiral Carp says, hey, that's a great knot. You would think your father would have taught you how to make a knot, but hey. It's funny because, Kobe, he's trying to cover up the Helmeppo's shoddy rope work and winds up catching Garp's attention, and he gets a compliment, and Garp is like, come follow me, youngling. And it's very ominous. He's just like, come here. Once the Straw Hats make it to Syrup Village, Nami sets out to work on getting them a ship, which she hopes will be easy in a shipbuilding town. Zoro has a moment of realization when Luffy points out that despite the massive bounty on Buggy the Clown's head, it would have been impossible for him to claim it, since no Marine would be willing to pay a wanted man. It's a stark realization for a man who was once known as the demon pirate hunter to find his throne, his lot in with those he used to kill, all conveyed through the most deadpan expression of annoyance. Right? It's just like, I can't turn it in because I'm also wanted, which is, it's a rough life. Pirate's life is a rough life. Speaking of Buggy the Clown, we are brought back to Buggy the Clown, and he's looking for the rest of his body parts. Unfortunately, he is visited by a fishman, a mysterious fishman pirate, who informs him that Arlong is looking for him. All things considered, he probably should have just stayed in those boxes. When the leader of the fishermen finally does show up, he tries to extract tribute from Buggy. In an attempt to save his own life, he offers up Luffy as an alternative target for Arlong's ire and offers to help him track the Straw Hats down because he has eyes and ears everywhere, which is also kind of a double innuendo kind of thing, because he is able to rip his body apart, and you get it. In the shipyard, Luffy starts listing out his dream requirements for a ship with all the enthusiasm of a first-time home buyer who has no idea how much things actually cost. Not even Nami's reminder that there are only 3 of them is enough to deter him. After all, there won't always be only 3 of them. When she suggests they instead find a ship that is smaller and therefore easier to steal, Luffy puts a stop to the whole thing. If they're going to get a ship, it needs to be the perfect one, and it needs to be gotten the right way, even if they don't have the money to pay for it. Nami sends Luffy off to find out if asking nicely is enough to get his dream ship before she and Zoro turn their attention to the original plan of stealing one. For someone so quick to hurl the word thief like an insult in episode 2, Zoro's come around to the way of the 5-finger discount really quickly, desperate times, or maybe he just really needs a new ship with a working bathroom. I mean, that is kind of important. Like, I'll be honest, it's a little important. And it doesn't take Luffy long. He just kind of finds the ship, the iconic ship with the ram's head at the front, and so wonderful. And Usop catches Luffy admiring the ship, sells him on all the features the ship has to offer. Luffy assumes this also means that Usop can literally sell them the ship, which he cannot. While he informs the crew that technically he only works there, he assures them that his best friend will be able to help since she owns the entire shipyard and interested in what a rich girl might be keeping at her house. Nami agrees to at least swing by and ask. So this is the scene where we see Kobe and Emo, whatever his name is, getting reprimanded by Vice Admiral. And he's just like, I was trying to fix his knot. His knot was shabby work. While Usop and Luffy admire the property, Nami wastes no time in assessing the place, reasoning to Zoro that a single homeowner with a small staff will make the place easier to rob, which it will. Even though he seemed willingly enough to help her steal a ship, Zoro judges her for being so fixated on money, specifically for her own personal gain, with complete disregard for her allies, since neither of them will actually admit the trio are friends yet. This is true. They're not quite sure what they are yet. Usop leads the group through the garden towards the very special VIP back entrance, which turns out to be just his way of sneaking when the household staff, Butchie and Sham, try to stop him from coming in. Even though he is embellishing the truth about everything else, the one thing he has right is that the homeowner, Kaya, actually is a friend of his and is saved from having his ass whooped with Kaya's arrival on the arm of her butler, Calidor. When she asks if Usop has come by to tell her one of his adventurous stories, he counters by introducing her to the Straw Hats, whom he calls his crew, and Kaya is so delighted she invites them all to stay for dinner, which is enough to offset Luffy's annoyance at not being recognized as the captain. Calidor is less than excited at the prospect, but concedes on the condition that they all change and bathe before dinner, because they all are smelly, gross people. While the rest of the crew gets ready for dinner, Usop sneaks in to see Kaya and gives her a birthday present, a giant pearl, which, while the pearl may or may not be real, the real highlight of the gift is the fanciful story that comes with it, one that has Kaya so amused she starts coughing hard enough to restrict airflow. Usop gives her tea that will supposedly help, and the tea is a very suspicious color and it's unnaturally bright. Hint, hint, wink, wink, nod, nod, and asks if her health has changed at all. For as long as she's been sick, Kaya is resigned to her fate and to the fact that only the unnaturally blue tea seems to help. We have some foreshadowing, don't we? If one thing I love in a series, it's when events go on a brief pause so the characters can dress up for an event. And One Piece delivers on this episode. Nami, Luffy, and Zoro gather in Kaya's closet, which is the size of my apartment, mind you. Her closet is the size of my whole apartment. Nami judges Kaya for having way more than a single person could need. It doesn't stop her from trying to pick out the prettiest dress she can find, even if the boys aren't very helpful, which is true. Luffy bets Nami that he'll be able to convince Kaya to just give them the ship, agreeing to go with her plan of stealing one if he fails. While they browse, Zoro raises his suspicion that he's seen Calidor somewhere before, but is struggling to place him. And another bit of foreshadowing, where on earth would Zoro remember seeing someone? It was probably on a bounty poster. Oh, wait. Is that more foreshadowing? Dun, dun, dun. It turns out Zoro is right to be suspicious of the good butler. Though Kaya embraces him and calls him a friend, the declaration seems to rattle the man. And rightly so. He joins Butchie and Sham in the kitchen where the pair are preparing a bright blue pureed soup for dinner, which Sham has to remind Butchie is poisoned. Given how terrified the two are of Calidor and how he made sure Kaya had even more of the blue tea, something is definitely up with this bright blue poison. Something important enough to have Calidor on edge. Well, a rich young woman, him not being rich, it's kind of obvious to tell what's going on. He wants to get her money. Duh. In Garp's office, the Vice Admiral also asks Kobe if his seamanship skills comes from his time with Alvida, then reassures the cadet that the experience helped him learn and survive, but it doesn't define him, something he knows Kobe probably still holds heart. So I'm going to also talk about this scene just from my perspective. I thought it was a really great scene. It kind of makes you feel for Admiral Garp a little bit. Like he's kind of taking Kobe under his wing because he sees his potential, and he's kind of acting as a fatherly figure, kind of pushing him to embrace his innate skills, his innate tactician inside him, because he can see that he is more than meets the eye. And I think that this whole scene with him playing one of the games, I forget what the game. It's a battle of wits. It's I think it's Chinese checkers. I'm probably wrong. It had the black and the white little round pieces on a board. Tell me what it is in the comments down below. And at first he beats Kobe, but then when he puts a timer, he's basically like, we have 2 minutes to play. You don't get to think, because he's like, you are thinking too much and you are hindering yourself. And so he starts to get beaten by Kobe at every turn, which is fabulous in my opinion. It shows that Kobe is really a solid seaman and a solid tactician. So he basically, while they're playing the game, Helmeppo comes in with the Luffy's he comes in holding Luffy's flag, his Jolly Roger, and they apparently abandoned their ship and pushed it out. And so the Marines are on the case and on their trail. So he says, Kobe and Helmeppo, it's time for you to prove yourselves. And he sends them off to go find the Straw Hat Gang. And, yeah, it's interesting. Though Kobe doesn't return to the manga narrative until much later in the game, having him as a newbie point of view on the Marine side of things acts not only as a balance to Luffy's own growth as a pirate, but also makes that whole side of the story more accessible. If it's not the older men of the world government hunting down our heroes, it's a peer and one-time friend of theirs, overall trying to do some good in the world, and really grounds the story overall. I agree. I like the Kobe's perspective on this, because we don't really get that in the anime. Kobe is kind of that kid that we first meet, and then when we see him much later on, he is a Marine. The Straw Hats, Usop, and Kaya gather for dinner, also joined by Mary, who manages Kaya's finances. Hint, hint, wink, wink. Nami attempts to charm him into revealing more about the business side of things, but is interrupted by Kaya's arrival and overt attempt to strike up a friendship. Meanwhile, Zoro attempts to work out how he knows Calidor, but the butler remains evasive, moving instead to stop Mary from distracting the transfer of ownership of the shipyard into Kaya's name. Oh, so basically that night at midnight, Kaya becomes the sole beneficiary of the shipyard. But what we find out later is intriguing. Continue watching. But Zoro isn't the only one now suspicious of Calidor. Nami bristles over how controlling the butler is, dictating what Kaya can and can't eat and speaking for her. In an effort to diffuse the tension, Usop suggests Luffy ask Kaya about the ship he was eyeing. And basically we get this cool scene where Luffy just like does his Luffy self. He jumps on the table and he's like, my dream is to be a pirate. And they're like, wait, you're a sailor? No, we're pirates. And everyone's just like, oh my God. And he kind of just slowly walks towards her around the food on the table and just like doing this grand entrance saying, I want to be king of the pirates and blah blah, and I need a ship and your ship is the perfect one. And she looks like she might just give it to him, and then she starts to go into a coughing fit. Butler's like, hey, everyone go to bed. Mary hovers in the hallway, still looking for Kaya after the fact to clarify why it is she apparently wants to transfer the ownership of the shipyard into Calidor's name and not her own. Dun, dun, dun. His first and, as it turns out, final mistake is in revealing all his suspicions to the most suspicious person in the house. Calidor proceeds to stab him with his hand. And then he does the thing with his glasses, which that's one of his signature things is like he can't do this with his glasses. He has to do this because his fingers have blades. So the Straw Hats are a little unsettled after dinner. Zorro bumps into Luffy, who supposedly is out looking for a drink, but the normally level-headed swordsman is just jumpy enough that it's more likely he's actually looking for Calidor. Luffy buys the drink story and volunteers to help him find the kitchen since he's on the hunt for a snack. Nami seems much calmer, roaming the house with a pillowcase, grabbing anything that she thinks she might be able to steal, and she walks into Kaya's room. And it's just kind of like, oopsie. For her part, Kaya doesn't seem bothered by Nami's sticky fingers and makes an overt offer of friendship, one Nami doesn't seem to think she can turn down. The two start to bond fairly quickly once it becomes clear to Nami how lonely Kaya actually is. It's enough that when Nami eventually leaves Kaya's room in the end, she feels guilty enough to put the valuables back. Nami's having character growth. Oh, she has a heart. Luffy and Zoro bump into Usop in the kitchen and ask him if there's anything going on between him and Kaya. Ooh la la! Something both of them deny separately, though it's obvious they really care about each other. Usop says he just wanted to be there for Kaya when her parents died, but the more he talks about her, the more obvious it becomes he really does have a crush on her. The more important details for Luffy, however, are that Usop is an incredible shot and that Usop's father, Usop, was a member of Shank's crew and someone Luffy knew growing up. As Zoro and Usop head off to the house's wine cellar, you can practically hear the join my crew wheels turning in Luffy's head, even though he stays behind to guzzle down all of Kaya's leftover poison soup. And that's where we leave off with Luffy. We don't see anything else. Down in the cellar, Zoro and Usop find Mary's body under the table, and Zoro's suspicions are raised yet again by the recognizable MO. Calidor doesn't keep him wondering for long, arriving to confront them. Just as Zoro puts it together, Calidor is actually Kuro, the captain of the Black Cat Pirates. Incidentally, another pirate captain, Morgan, claimed he had taken care of, leading to the conclusion that Morgan is just terrible at his job, right? So I think the Straw Hat crew was actually helping out the Marines by taking out Calidor. Zoro draws one of his blades, but is quickly outmatched by Kuro's stealth, and no, it's not stealth. Well, it's a combination of stealth and speed. By Sham hitting him on the head with a bottle, Usop manages to scramble away, but Kuro is unconcerned. Usop has cried pirate one too many times to be taken seriously. He orders Bougie and Sham to dispose of Mary and Zoro's bodies, which they do by dumping them in the well in the yard. Usop runs through the town calling for help, but naturally no one believes him. No one except Kobe. Da 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 da. Yeah, boy, we get to see Kobe actually, hopefully on this next episode, actually be a Marine and help things out and do things like, yes. This episode was fabulous. I really enjoyed us getting to see a little bit of Nami's. She's torn. She wants to do the right thing, but she's also a thief and she hates pirates. But she's with Luffy, and you just kind of get to see where Nami is struggling with some of her loyalties, where she is definitely a thief. She definitely hates rich people because XYZ, but we also get to see some of Nami's biases turned on their head because Kai is actually very sweet and very kind and very generous. And Nami, I don't think, knows what to do with this. She's so used to everything being such black and white, like good and bad. And then we see someone who is rich but is kind and generous. I really enjoyed Nami's little kind of mini dilemma in this episode. I love Luffy being Luffy. I love how he acts so oblivious, and there are times he is absolutely oblivious, but it makes you wonder. He always knows when to show up at the right time of showing up. It just, I don't know. It makes me think Luffy is actually a lot more competent than we give him credit for. And I love how Zoro, like, you can tell that Zoro's like, this Straw Hat kid, there's something else about him. And you start to see some of the gears turning in Zoro's head, like, he's not so bad kind of thing. And we get to see Kobe kind of shine. I really enjoyed getting to see kind of a little bit more of Kobe's backstory, how the Vice Admiral kind of takes him under his wing and tutors him and helps him realize, oh, I'm actually really competent. I enjoyed those aspects of this episode. Definitely great opportunity to show off the big baddie of this arc with Arlong. His design is still a little bit goofy in my opinion, but you can't really help his design because the anime he was also really goofy. So I also enjoy that Buggy is not as gone as we thought he was. The crazy clown is coming back for round 2. And the big circus will have its actual finale soon, hopefully. But we are left on a bit of a cliffhanger. Will Colby and Helmeppo help the Straw Hat Gang? Will they not? Is Colby starting to believe all of the teachings of the Vice Admiral? Who knows? But thank you guys so much for watching. Please don't forget to hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. Comment down below your thoughts on this episode if you've seen it. And I will see you on the next video. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day.